Welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today from the band Sweet Crystal, we got Q. Q, what's going on?
Not much, man. Glad to be on this this venerable podcast. Thanks for having me.
It is absolutely my pleasure, and we got to shout out Phil Lepp up there, who recommended you highly after we did his interview, which just dropped on the Scene Project Sports Network last week. So it being baseball season, we had to get Phil on to talk about the Leprechauns out there at Royal Oak. And he said, "Oh, you do music. You got to meet my friend Q." So that's what brings us here. So shout out to Phil. Q, thanks, I always like to start the episode just giving you a minute to kind of give us your background. Obviously, been in music and playing, with these guys and in this band for decades now. You don't have to go necessarily all the way back and recount every crazy story that we have in the catalog, but we'd love to know a little bit about your history, the inception of the band, and then you can fast forward through the 80s, which we probably can't share on the show anyway.
That's great. Thanks, Bubba. I appreciate this opportunity. Basically, my band Sweet Crystal, myself on keyboards, as you can see, lead vocals, my guitar player Bill Blatter, my drummer Steve Weezer have been together since 1974. So make that 52 years of the music and the message that makes Sweet Crystal who we are. Currently, we have a bass player, Martin Kukar, who's been with us 7 years. We went through 12 other bass players before we got Marty, so kind of a spinal tap issue with bass players up until Marty came along. But we started out as just a rock and roll band when we first got out of college. 5 years into this mission, I had a medical issue that changed my life entirely. I met a woman who became my wife, who brought me to Christ, because if you don't know Sweet Crystal, we are a Christian progressive rock band, and changed my life, changed the direction of my music and my overall trajectory in this life. Steve, Bill, and I have been going ever since. We have never stopped. We stopped playing live for about a decade when we did soundtracks and TV shows and commercials, but then we got back out live some 15, 20 years ago, and we've been playing live ever since. We've won 28 Detroit Music Awards for outstanding gospel Christian music, as well as some other accolades. But basically, we're just a band of guys that love each other. We get together every week, whether we have a gig or a recording or something to do, just to keep the music fresh. And I just feel very blessed to be here all these decades later, still doing what I think God wants us to do. Because if he didn't want us to do this, chances are we would have been taken home by now.
Nothing more true than that. And when you find where the good ground is, you stay planted and you continue to water it. And I think that's something that a lot of young bands can take as well. The weekly rehearsals. And that's something I've always been very jealous of over my career of now spanning over 25 years playing music, professionally. I've been in bands since I was 13 years old, whether it was playing in my dad's band or eventually, in my 20s running my own. And then ever since that, I have never had that solid foundation of guys that it was just us playing music and was really about the music. I think, and probably a little bit of a fault of my own, because in South Dakota, we're very blessed to be paid fairly well for what we do, but it changes it to where nobody was ever coming into the band for necessarily the love of the music. It was like, cool, we're going to go out on the weekends. We're going to make $100 to $200 a piece. And it's becoming
Nice.
part of this financial conversation very early in the formation of these bands. It was very much me handing someone a set list with the key changes on it and saying, okay, this is what you're going to play. So as a musician, I've never had that musical relationship long-term with a group or even another person, period. And I'm always very jealous is maybe the wrong word, but I'm definitely, a little bit, left longing for that. And maybe that's still to come. It's such a long life. And I think that your career is a great example of that just because you didn't make it in your 20s doesn't mean that your musical career is over by any means.
Not at all. And I think that's what's unique about Sweet Crystal is the fact that we are still together. There are very few, I want to call us a local band, although we've done some national tours and opened for quite a few people. But we're just a local band, and we're still together because it's a love of the music, the message, the mission for what we do. We're very blessed to not have to worry about playing for money, for finances. We basically do a lot of benefits for Wounded Warrior Project, for veterans organizations, and that's really what got us back out live back in 2027, 28. A new organization called Vet Fest came into being, and the gentleman was a Vietnam vet, and he remembered us from when we started out in the 70s in Detroit, and said he had a lot of vet buddies that remembered us as well, and would we like to play this inaugural event. It turns out we hadn't played live in a decade, so we put together a whole bunch of new songs that we did. We came out playing live, and for the next 10 years we played that event until Russ passed away from Agent Orange. But we've been going ever since, and it's very, very cool. We don't have to play out, so we don't have to burn out ourselves, but we like showing up to events and to places where people can raise support, to get supported by the fact that we're there. So you don't have to pay us to be there. We just bring Jesus. You can't charge for Jesus, so he comes with us, and we just show up, and hopefully us being there will bring other people in that will end up supporting whatever the cause is or whatever the event is based on. And I think that's a blessing to us to be able to play that, knowing that we can just do it because this is where God wants us to be.
And in the same vein, I feel for myself, my relationship with Operation Combating Veteran Suicide, first as a partner and now as the director of marketing and PR, that everything that I do has that cause behind it, and the greater cause of bringing people together, and now bringing them together to support our veteran community has meant so much to me. And it's really only been 6 months since we've gotten together, but we've opened some amazing doors so far, and we'll continue to support our veterans and being able to be a part of these, and mostly focused around musical events such as the Vet Fest. And our hearts go out to your friend and their family, obviously. But it's something that I didn't know. If you would have told me 2 years ago, even, that this is what we would be doing and I would have these titles and we would be running on this, I would have never believed you. And that's how I know that it is a God thing, that we are here and that we are together today, because I could have never planned this beautiful life on my own. And really, I'm just trying to do my best to hang on and to go where I'm called.
Well, I did a little bit of research on you once we had first talked to each other, and that's the first thing that jumped out at me. When I saw the veterans focus of who you are and what you're doing, I just went, well, there it is. That's what God wants us to do, because our vets, man, God bless them, they are just hurting, and if you don't see the wounds on the outside, you see the wounds on the inside. We have a song called Warriors that we play pretty much everywhere we go, and the premise of that show is, that song is, you don't have to support any war, but we have to support every warrior. And because of that, that's why I think Sweet Crystal is still thriving, surviving, and doing what we're doing, because we have a heart for the men and women of the armed forces, but also for their families. And that's sometimes the family members, the sacrifice that they go through by letting their loved ones go off to stand in the gap for the rest of us. Their sacrifice can be every bit as damaging. You may not see the scars on the outside, but every person who's gone through any kind of armed conflict has scars on the inside. And that is something that we just try to help any and everywhere we can.
Yeah, and I get so disappointed that it often becomes a political issue of supporting the troops, as if it should be one. There are people on both sides of the aisle that are affected and have, a family member who is serving and a loved one who is serving our country or has in the past. And to me, there is no room in our veteran community to divide ourselves like that. We are all together in that fight, and especially with us with combating veteran suicide, because it's not about, stopping someone when they've gotten to the point where they're considering taking their life. It is to get in there very much in advance of that, when they start to have troubles, whether it's with substance abuse or it is, the loss, a financial loss maybe, or the loss of one of their loved ones that bring people to this. I don't think that the decision is ever made lightly, and often that decision is made years in advance of something actually happening. So we are very much boots on the ground with what we are doing for the veteran community, and a lot of that focused around the music community and now our sports community as well, and reaching the widest swath of people that we absolutely can. And I don't know anything more healing to me than music.
Well, I appreciate you talking about this because politics gets in the way of intelligent conversations. So I never bring that up. What's interesting to me, Bubba, is if you ever do another event or other events, even when my full band can't travel, in the last 6 years since I retired from my day gig, I've started doing something called Solo But Never Alone, where I can go with me, one keyboard, and I show up at a lot of events doing the same music and message that Sweet Crystal is known for. But if the whole band can't make it, then I can always travel. And my wife, Jan, and I have decided that's what we're doing with we're not calling them golden years because there's no gold involved. But this is what we do. So we travel quite around doing those kind of shows. We also have something called Sweet Crystal Light, which is just my guitar player and myself. So it's the two of us that we show up and do this. So it's kind of neat. We've developed a show where we can do anywhere from one person to the whole quartet. So it's a lot of fun. And that allows us to play places that normally wouldn't be able to take the whole band. You know, I can do a coffee house, I can do a church, we can do an arena. So it's just fun that at this point in my life, I've got the gear I need to go wherever I need to go and do whatever God calls me to do. So it's very cool. So I hope to be involved with you somewhere down the road in that aspect. No pressure, just saying.
No, you are on the list, sir. It would be wonderful to bring you out here to the Midwest, where I know you have roots growing up in Iowa, but also earlier this year, we actually hosted our Midwest Talent Awards with our friends and partners at Candela right there in Mexican Town in Detroit. So I was in your city.
I thought I saw your name come through town a while back. And that's when I started looking at you going, I think I saw this guy somewhere say he was going to be here in town. That's what it was. All right.
Yep. So we're going to make sure you're involved with that as well, our local heroes, and we're going to make you part of the show. I think it would be absolutely wonderful. I also hope that you're able to avoid a lawsuit with the Sweet Crystal Light as well. Hopefully they see who you are.
That is kind of funny. We don't really, we do kind of promote it that way occasionally. But yeah, we've never had anybody come back to us and go, hey, you can't do that. It's just funny.
So Q, what is it that, obviously your love of Jesus and performing and honoring God with that, your music, your gifts, your talents, which I think is something that more artists need to kind of take to heart, that what you have is a gift to the world and it is meant to be shared. It's not necessarily meant to just be monetized and commoditized and sold, to the world, but that it is a gift to be shared. Is it that solely that kind of drives you now at this stage in your career? Or is there something still musically that you feel there is to achieve, or that you haven't quite done yet, that kind of keeps the fire burning?
Well, what's interesting, Bubba, is we have a trademark slogan called "Reaching the World One Song at a Time." We've had that for a long time. And I think that because of technology, because of the web and the way the world works now, I think that's the one thing I still strive to do, is figure out how to get the songs. We're working on our 8th CD, which is coming up. How to get these songs out to the people that can use the message that's in the songs. We're not the kind of Jesus freak band that comes out and says, you got to believe in Jesus, you're going to go to hell, that kind of thing. We are basically a band of Christians that write songs about the trials and tribulations of our lives, what we've gone through. And usually by the end of a Sweet Crystal song, there's a solution, or at least a glimmer of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel that hopefully the listener will hear and start thinking about it. It's not our job to save people, but it is our job to point them in the right direction. And God has been very good to this band and kept us going all these years. And I think that's what we're supposed to do. So my biggest goal is still to try to figure out how to become more effective. I want to be a better songwriter, because I think I have a lot of ideas that are probably better than the ones that came out back in the day. But a funny thing, our most played song is from 1976. called Warlords. And this was before we were a Christian band, but the theme of the song, you could tell we were searching for something. And that song has more streams and more play across the world than anything that we've done since then, almost. So for us, we've got a concert coming up where the promoter actually says, can you guys play Warlords live? And we haven't played that song since the 70s. We're going, you know what? We probably should bring it back up because that's probably the only song I get royalty checks on. Every quarter I go, look at this. So we may have to work that back out. We probably want to modernize it a bit because we were pretty young and recording was pretty grainy, but it still is funny for me to look at that. So those little things are like what God gives us to keep us going. He gives us little attaboys. You know, I just got another nomination this year for the Josie Awards, which is a really big independent music 12th year award down in Nashville. Last year I won it for Outstanding Musician of the Year keyboards. And I had never heard of the Josies until somebody said I was nominated. My wife and I went down there as just to go because I love Nashville. And I ended up winning, which was just mind-boggling to me. This year I got nominated for piano. And I'm just still mind-boggled. But it's just those are the kind of things I believe the Lord sends your way so that you don't stop what you're doing. Because it'd be very easy to just go, I'm done. You know, I've been doing this for 5 decades. What's the point? Well, the point is God has a point for your life each and every day. It's a new beginning. That's what I'm trying to always remember. You know, in God we trust.
Well, Q, we've just been running circles around each other. I was there working the red carpet. I was right there.
That
front
was
of the
line,
working the red carpet. It was my first time being at the Josies, my first time in Nashville.
Really?
I took George Jones's old tour bus down there. A friend of mine owns the coach still. It needed some work done. So rode down there on the tour bus, got to, work the Grand Ole Opry
Nice.
for my first time being there. So congratulations to you. What a great organization. We're looking forward to going back down
we'll
this
see
year.
you there then. That's excellent.
Oh yeah. Fingers crossed. I know the nominations have been rolling out here slowly with all kind of starting at the top and working their way down. So I know that we did put in our name in the hat for the podcasting and some awards in that. So fingers crossed that not only this year are we able to work out there on the red carpet and to be a part of that, but to have some recognition as a nominee would be massive to me, to win one and to be able to walk up on that stage and to thank everyone who's been such a big deal with this organization that we've built, this family truly that the Scene Projects has become, would be an absolute treat. And that's for someone who didn't necessarily grow up a big country music fan. You know, I know that it's hallowed ground, but it maybe doesn't mean as much to me as it does to others who grew up watching and consuming.
I had no idea the story behind the circle on the stage. I didn't know what everybody was so reverent toward that. And I had no idea what that meant. I just got up and said whatever I said. I wasn't even expecting to win, so I just said whatever. But later on, when we looked into it, I told my wife, Jan, I just go, you know what? That thing is actually very, very important to the overall scheme of Nashville. I wish I would have known then.
My good friend Jasmine Kane performed and won a couple
we loved
of awards
her.
herself.
That's the first time we ever saw her. Jan and I just both went, oh, this is somebody I'd love to work with down the road. We have become huge Jasmine Kane fans since that show. Wow,
yeah, incredible.
Nice.
Well, she was a big reason why I went down. She's a South Dakota girl. I've been following her career since my dad was sneaking me in the bars before I was 21 to go see her. And she performed out in Deadwood, my hometown, numerous times, being from just out there, Faith, South Dakota, and ranch and family, right? And I couldn't miss it. To be there to support my friend. And I had a lot of other friends that were nominated as well. I'm a member of the Midwest Country Music Organization as well. So
we loved her. Yep. Oh,
it was great.
Small world, man. Small
yeah.
world.
Well, especially when you start getting into the musician side of things, right? Yeah. And that's what's been very rewarding to me doing this and to many degrees stepping out of the limelight of my artist career. And not that there was ever a big spotlight, but we did fairly well and we're fairly, well known in our, in the state of South Dakota and around our areas. And everybody knows me. And it was finding a way that I could serve our community. And the Scene Projects really became that. And the same way that you found that, your band had a way to serve your community and the veteran community that I've found that in podcasting. And I can still play music. I can still do these things, but it's just a matter of like, to begin a new venture takes a massive amount of energy, and I could not serve two masters at the same time. I could not serve my artist career and a burgeoning community that was the Scene Projects at the same time. But this will always be there, right? The artist career and the songwriting is never going anywhere, and in its due time it will have its resurgence as well once this, you know, monumental task of getting the snowball built and rolling down the hill can kind of have legs of its own, and then I can go back to playing music and talking with gentlemen like yourself gives me a lot of confidence that I'm right in that fact.
You are right in that, and that's the one thing about being a creative, being a musician. As long as you're not chasing that almighty dollar or that pinnacle of success that the world offers, you can play until you can't. I mean, so you can always play. Every time I have my wife bought me a baby grand piano for one of my landmark birthdays, and every time I walk by that puppy, that's what I call it, I sit down and play for 5 minutes. The endorphin rush that comes through me just from sitting down and playing it, even though I'm not getting anything really done other than playing, I can do that until my fingers don't work. You can play guitar up until you can't play guitar. And I think that's what a lot of people don't have. They do not have that release that a musician has. As long as you're not trying to do it for the wrong reasons, you're just doing it because it's part of you and you're able to express that part of you, I think you'll always be able to play. And everybody's always looking for a guitar player. Everybody's always looking for a musician. Everybody's always looking for a bass player. Apparently, that's what it is in Detroit. But as you know, I'm in 5 different bands right now, and it's very interesting. Sweet Crystal, of course, is my heart. But these other projects I play with because there's apparently not a ton of keyboard players out there. And I got a ton of keyboards, so I've joined a whole bunch of different projects, and each project uses a different keyboard. It's very interesting, but that's because that's what I want to do. I want to differentiate my sound with everybody I'm playing with. It's kind of fun. It's just a fun little mind game I play with myself.
Q, what's next? What's next for Sweet Crystal with these other projects? I mean, it seems like you're still all these years later spinning quite a few plates and staying plenty busy out there. What is it that's on the horizon for you?
The big one for Sweet Crystal, this is our 2nd year doing it. We have here in Detroit, we have something called the Unity for Christ Music Festival. This is the 2nd year. I am the actual musical director of it. I booked all the entertainment. It's a full day event in downtown Detroit. It's sponsored by 4 of the local churches. They came together and we take over a city block and put on an all-day free concert with food, bounce houses for the kids, places for the different ministers to give their message. But I think we've got 8 different acts, 8 different bands, and 3 or 4 different solo artists this year. That's coming up at the end of June, right in downtown Detroit. So that's a big one for us because not only are we playing, I'm almost the headliner, but I'm in the last 3 bands. So I kind of worked my way from Sweet Crystal to David Winans of the Winans family. I'm his keyboard player. And then we end with a bunch of very high-end musicians called the Saints. And that's the end of the big end of the show. So that's coming up. If you go to sweetcrystal.com or our Facebook pages, you'll be able to follow through with what we're doing. This week we have a benefit show for a man by the name of Frank Pettis, who's 85 years old, and he's a photographer to the freaking stars. He's been around shooting David Bowie and the Stones from the 60s all the way up until last year, shooting a variety of people. And it's his 85th birthday. The city's coming together to give him his accolades. And I'm in one band called Mars Radio, and we're like the headliner for that show. So every other week I'm playing, doing something totally different. So it's a lot of fun for me. Hopefully it's fun for people that know us. God bless my wife that she comes with me. So she's a trooper. And we just keep doing this until we can't do it anymore. But really, if you go to sweetcrystal.com or my solo Q page, that's the easiest way to figure out where and when I might be showing up.
Fantastic. Well, Q, a pleasure to meet you. I know we'll be seeing each other later
Looking
on
forward
this
to it.
year.
Yeah, baby.
We'll be
That's
making a
cool.
point of it. We have all your contact info. Highly recommend everybody check out Sweet Crystal, SweetCrystal.com. I appreciate your time, sir, and I look forward to seeing you out there on the road and maybe getting to play this show next year when
Wouldn't that be
the
something?
books open back up. I would be absolutely honored to come out to Detroit and play some music for everyone there.
That's excellent.
Thank you, Q. Thank you for
God
spending
bless you,
some
man.
time with me.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do, man, for the vets. That's huge.
It's an honor to serve those who have served. Q, thank you for being part of the scene.